This program has been brought to you by Republic National Distributing Company, one of the nation's leading wholesale beverage alcohol distributors. And Bayou Rum, made with only the best Louisiana cane syrup and raw unrefined sugars. Our rums are crafted on-site at the Louisiana Spirits Distillery. For more information, visit bayourum.com.
Good evening, and thank you once again for joining us as we explore New Orleans' appetite for life through the cuisines, the drinks, and the people who make our city such a special place. I am your host and guide, Tim McNally. Tonight, we stay a bit more focused than our usual selection of guests as we take a closer look at two restaurants that epitomize the dining habits of this town, if for no other reason than they have been on the scene for a very long time. In a business that in most places looks upon 5 years as an eternity, Antoine's restaurant, founded in 1840 by Antoine is America's oldest restaurant, operated by only one family in its entire existence. We visit with Rick Blount, who is now president of Antoine's and the great-grandson of the founder. Tujague's is the second oldest restaurant in New Orleans, founded 1856, which began as a working man's place to grab a bite. The building was prior to that an armory for Spain. The current generation of operator caretaker Mark Latter rescued the business after the previous operator, his brother Stephen, passed away, and he has shown respect for what this place stands for. To further prove these restaurants' value to our city and to the nation's history of food service, we will speak with the chefs of both restaurants and discuss cuisine styles, menu changes, and what they perceive as their role to be keepers of the culinary and cultural history of New Orleans. All of that ahead on Appetite for Life. We will be right back after this break. Welcome back to Appetite for Life on WLAE Channel 32. We appreciate you being with us. Very special unit today. We are at Antoine's restaurant. This is one of my favorite restaurants in town and always has been, and I bet it's one of your favorites too. We are privileged to have Rick Blount with us today, the latest, greatest member of the Alciator family, the Blount family, the Roy Gust family, all of the families that are involved in this restaurant. This is a unique American story, Rick. This has only happened in New Orleans.
Antoine came to New York, was a guy lived his whole life in Marseille, so he only spoke French, didn't really get along in New York very well at all, and immediately sort of migrated to New Orleans, where at least they spoke, French. At least they spoke his language here at that time, and I think he was reasonably successful very early in his life. I mean, he comes to New Orleans, and his skill set, what he brought with him in his head from France, seemed to have hit a nerve here, and he was able to get off the ground running here in New Orleans, and shortly owned a restaurant for a young kid from France. I think that was pretty phenomenal.
He was a teenager.
Story. Yeah, he was like 18 years old. I mean, he was a young kid.
Now, this wasn't the original place, was it?
It wasn't the original place.
It was a block away, wasn't it?
It was a block away. Right on the corner of Exchange Alley in that big marble courthouse building, the Louisiana Supreme Court building. Exchange Alley came all the way through that block, and the whole block burned. And so Antoine, shortly after that, purchased this little pension or hotel or bed and breakfast, or however you would describe an 1800s home that had 3 floors of 6 hotel rooms. So it had 18 hotel rooms and a dining room on the first floor.
Wasn't this big though, was it? Haven't you added buildings on since then? Or was it always this size? It's huge.
Well, not in Antoine's time. Antoine operated this business here in his generation. His son, Jules, was the 2nd generation in management in the restaurant, and Jules married very well. Jules married a beautiful woman from right outside of Lafayette. Youngsville.
Yes.
At the time it was called Royville, but that was her name. Her name was Althea Alte Roy. And he got a nice big dowry for that, you know, so a real concept that I'm, you know,
not going with that.
Yeah,
but,
would think
is that where, now Antoine's has a lot of South Louisiana waiters. You always have had that. Is that part of the tie into that? Does it go back that far?
Yes and no. In Jules' time, the reason we got to grow as a restaurant is because Jules had his had money, had a dowry, a chunk of liquidity that happened in a second. You know, I mean, he didn't have money, and then suddenly he had money. So he had to invest his money in something, and what he chose to invest his money in was all of the buildings around his mom and dad's little pension. That he grew up in this building. He grew up in this pension. So he bought his neighbors' houses all the way around, and so that's how we got that real estate.
Wow!
It was Jules' investment of his dowry.
Let me go back to Antoine's wife. Did she come from France?
No, she was a German, but he met her on the ship from Europe to New York. I think she's a real unsung hero in the legacy.
She literally
of
saved
Antoine.
the restaurant.
I think she ran it.
She ran it.
I think that
this
Antoine
goes back
was
to a
the
very European concept of when the husband has health problems or is no longer a part of it, the wife steps in. And she literally ran Antoine's in the way that he would have. This is the most dramatic part of the story for me, Rick, is that he was very sick and he went home to die rather than have his wife see him fade away and die. That gets me every time.
I think he befell the fate of everybody who worked with coal. He died of lung disease because he worked behind a coal stove his whole life, and so in what we would consider middle age, he was very sick and went back to France to die.
When you think about this restaurant, and it is truly New Orleans Palace in my mind. This is a place that it's grand and yet it's very welcoming, which I think is what a palace is supposed to be. It's supposed to represent the best of the people around it, and I think Antoine's does that for New Orleanians. But this restaurant, 1842, wrap your mind around that for a second. I know you do every day. Everything that has occurred since 1842, civil wars, famines, prohibition, all of that. Depression. And this restaurant was here.
Yeah.
And
it stayed here, which isn't that amazing? Isn't that totally amazing?
Blows me away.
I remember telling a reporter. I remember when we were on the street right after Katrina. I remember seeing you.
Yes.
And I remember sitting across the street on a plastic chair in front of Fine Shell Nuts building, and telling a reporter then that when they looked at you and said, well, this is insurmountable, no one can recover from this. I said, wait a minute, pal. That old goofy building across the street has recovered. Can you imagine surviving the Civil War and then Reconstruction?
Yes.
Can you just imagine? I mean, just imagine that and still be who you were, and still be in your business and in the capacity that you were in during that and before that period. So that's amazing.
I think that's
my family. There was obviously in the aftermath of Katrina, there was a lot of tears to shed and a lot uncertainty and a lot of problems. But certainly my family had, my ancestors had given the example, I guess, if nothing else, that that adversity could be overcome, and that Antoine's could be again what it had always been.
Well, you are a shining example of that, Rick, and you have lived through that event is marking your life, but your ancestors all had events marking their lives, and Antoine's is still here today. One of the most successful businesses in New Orleans. I'm terribly proud of this business is here.
Well, I'm obviously very proud of the business, and I'm very, very proud of the families that are here. One of the biggest catastrophes that could have happened in Katrina is that the families that worked in this restaurant could have been dispersed, and that they would no longer, the knitness, the relationships between the service professionals on the floor and the cooking professionals in the kitchen would be lost. You know, the ability to have the culture that Antoine's had in the past could have been lost in the storm, and that's one of the most touching things to me.
Yes.
Is that somehow out of all that chaos, it came back together, and the magic could still happen.
In beautiful fashion. In beautiful fashion.
That was a wonderful event for me and for my family.
Well, Rick Blount, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing part of the story of Antoine's with our viewers. I'm just, as I said, I'm always in awe when I come into this restaurant. It's a beautiful restaurant. You're doing an amazing job, as is your staff, as is Chef Michael, whom we're going to talk with a little bit later on. I'm just, this is one of my favorites, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's a great honor.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you,
I appreciate
Rick.
being on.
Thank you. Tim McNally, Appetite for Life on WLAE. We're going to be right back after a short break. We are in a grand building and a great restaurant. We're talking to Mark Latter at Tujague's. Mark, welcome to the show.
Tim, thank you for having me.
Gosh, I'm glad you're here, buddy, because this restaurant, everywhere you look, tells a story. The building predates the restaurant.
So it was a restaurant before it was Tujague's. It was actually Begay's. So the restaurant has to be late 1700s, I believe.
This whole part, we're down by the river, so that's what this restaurant appealed to, are people who worked at the docks.
Absolutely. When the gentlemen got off the ship after working a long day or week, they would come in and get their beef brisket.
People don't know where Madame Begay came into the picture. Could you give us a little bit of that history?
The restaurant before Tujague's was called Begay's, and that was Madame Begay, and she went through a couple different husbands and continued the restaurant, and then until the Tujague's family purchased the restaurant from her. Tujague's was actually at another location and then brought it to 823 Decatur Street in 1856. And Madame Begay moved her restaurant in the Royal Sonesta Hotel.
And I'm assuming that you always made your name on working men's lunch.
Absolutely. That and we also invented brunch. Madame Begay herself invented brunch.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Wow. She stuck another meal in there.
She did.
She was a good operator.
She was trying to find different ways to use beef and eggs and different ingredients that generally weren't eaten together at the same time.
Well, since you brought it up, nobody comes to Tujague's without having the brisket.
That is our house specialty. We sell more brisket than any other item on the menu. It's a little bit different than a lot of people from other states come in, and it's not like we do it in Kansas City or Texas. It's boiled beef brisket. We boil it for about 5 or 6 hours till it gets real tender, and we cube it. And it's served with our traditional Creole horseradish sauce.
It is absolutely delightful. Melts in your mouth.
It does. You don't even need a knife. It's
No,
just
or teeth. You don't need any of
right.
it. I love it, and I love bringing people here. And you now serve the brisket in a po' boy, don't you?
We do. We do a traditional French bread, sauce, lettuce, tomato po' boy.
You have another on you. We're going to get back to talk about the restaurant in a second, Mark, but now that we're on the menu items, you have another item here that just astounds me. Restaurants do not have specialty items that are not listed on the menu. You do.
We do. We have chicken bun femme, which is, I eat it 3-4 times a week. It is flourless pan-fried chicken with parsley, garlic, fresh garlic, and lots of potatoes. So we mince the garlic and parsley together, and it kind of creates this additional flavors, and we just dump it on the chicken. It is to die for.
It is to die for. And you have to know it's here.
You do, but we sell a lot of it. You know, the word is out. People ask us why we don't put it on the menu. We can't cook enough, produce enough of it, since it is pan-fried, to fill the restaurant.
We almost lost Tujague a few years ago, and you, hero of the moment, sir, stepped in to save Tujague, and it became important to New Orleans. And it reminded me, in parallel, of what we went through with Katrina. We didn't know how important New Orleans was until we almost lost it. And I don't think any of us knew how important Tujague was until we almost lost it.
I completely agree. 2013, my father passed away. There was a chance the restaurant was going to be taken away. There was a lease issue, and really the city, the country, people all over the country, the New York Times, local restaurateurs, Dickie Brennan, Chef John Besh, Ralph Brennan, all came to the table and made everyone realize how important Tujague was to the city. There was almost a riot.
Well, a great job, and I'm so happy that you're still here, and I know that there are days when you question your sanity for making that happen. But let's get back to the history of the restaurant, because that's most fascinating. So there were two predecessor owners before your family entered the picture?
So we're the third family. Each family had two generations. There's the Tujague family. There's the Guichets, which was Otis Guichet, Noni Guichet worked here as well. They had two generations, and then the Ladder family. So I'm the second generation Ladder. So three families in 160 years.
So the real story of the restaurant here is not so much that it's been here and it continues to be here, but that it's excellent. I think, Mark, you have done a fabulous job. You brought in a new chef when you came in.
For the first time in the history of the restaurant, we went away from doing a prix-fixe menu only. And we introduced an a la carte menu in 2013. And the restaurant has just flourished. We're seeing a lot of different clientele, younger clientele. And really you can come in and pick and choose what you want, but before you had to have the 5-course meal.
And I would be remiss to my friends out there who know me better not to get into the bar story, because you have one of the great bar backs in the city, maybe the country.
We have the oldest stand-up bar in the country. Guests come in and ask for bar stools because they want to eat at the bar, and we tell them that there are no bar stools. Now, the back bar is from a bistro in Paris. It was there for 93 years before it came to Tujague. Came in on a ship, so it's been here since 1856. You can do the math. It's a very, very old mirror and has not ever been broken. The top of the back bar, you can see, is kind of through the humidity in New Orleans. People asking for scraping it. We haven't touched it. It's just deteriorating over the years.
It's on its own.
It's on its own.
And your most famous drink creation, I know you're proud to serve it, is the Grasshopper.
So the Guichet, Philip Guichet, went to a cocktail competition in New York in the 30s and won second place. He created the Grasshopper, which is now, we sell more Grasshoppers than any other cocktail in our bar.
Oh, I can't believe that. Wow. So people know that they need to order that drink.
The word is out there. They need to come to Tujague to get a Grasshopper.
What's in the drink?
It's cream de cocoa white, cream de cocoa brown, creme de mint, cream, and then we float it with brandy.
No wonder I love it so much.
It tastes like a mint chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
And it looks like a Girl Scout cookie, actually.
It does.
It's a beautiful color.
We're actually doing a Grasshopper cheesecake now.
Wow.
So we were trying to incorporate the Grasshopper into the kitchen, and cheesecake, what else goes better than throwing a little chocolate mint inside the cheesecake?
Do you serve that to children?
Serve it to anyone who wants it. Helps them sleep at night.
It's not that potent, yeah.
No, it's not potent at all.
That's excellent. Do you think that the future of Tujague is this? Are you committed to keeping this the way it is today?
Absolutely. Now, we've tried to do a good job of keeping traditional Creole food. Sometimes we go outside the box. But basically, we're going to keep going in the direction we're going now.
The dining room is actually, has that always been like that with the mirrors and the tile floor?
So the front dining room, in 2013, we renovated it. We took 1978 out of it. There was brown paneling on the walls from floor to ceiling. We built the white walls. We added the mirrors just to brighten the room up. It was very dark. My father had, 400 pictures on the wall, different size, different shape. None of them were aligned. They were all dusty. So we really wanted to brighten the room up.
It looks great.
And there's great response for that. Great response. And we added candles to the tables, which is a funny backstory that my father never liked candles on the table.
He didn't like candles?
No. Didn't think Tujague needed it.
But you decided that was a good idea.
When people walk by Tujague's now through the 2 sets of French doors, they can see the candles through the mirrors, and it catches their eye. Before, it was a dark room with, he had shades on the windows.
Yeah, I used to walk by and didn't realize I was part of your restaurant until I walked in the door.
Right. So we changed the culture of the front dining room a little bit.
Astounding. Your 2 biggest days of the year that you do well on, you say, is Thanksgiving and
Thanksgiving
Christmas.
Day and Christmas Day.
You do a lot of covers on that.
Thanksgiving Day we'll do from 700 to 800. Christmas Day we'll do from 800 to 900 covers. It's a very long day.
That pushes the restaurant all the way to the end, doesn't it?
It does.
You can't do much more than that.
No, Christmas Day is the max.
Do you use upstairs?
Absolutely. We use every seat in the restaurant.
Mark Ladder. Mark is the proprietor and owner of Tujague's Restaurant in New Orleans since 1856. That's the official date.
Celebrated 160 years old this year.
Second oldest restaurant in New Orleans and has always been a family restaurant. You are to be congratulated, sir.
Thank you very much.
Tim McNally here on Appetite for Life, WLAE, Channel 32. We're going to be right back. And we are back. Tim McNally here, Appetite for Life. Thank you very much for being with us. We are going to continue our discussion on 2 of the oldest restaurants in America, both of which are literally blocks from each other here in New Orleans in the French Quarter. But now we're going to talk to the guys that make the restaurants go. We've got Michael Ragusa here, the chef at Antoine's, Guy Sockrider here, the chef at Tujague's. And gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. Michael, I'm going to start with you, sir, because Antoine's is the senior restaurant, but not by a whole lot. You were founded?
In 1840.
And continuously, one family.
With one family, that's, Antoine's, there's restaurants that claim to be older, but Antoine's the oldest restaurant in the nation that's continuously ran by the same family.
You just celebrated a big birthday.
We just celebrated the 175th anniversary.
I'm going to come back to that. And Guy, Tujague's restaurant is one of those places that sort of people don't think of at the top of their mind as being one of the grand restaurants in New Orleans.
I find that's changing a little bit.
Good.
Yeah, I find that's changing.
Good. I hope you're making it so.
I hope so as well.
There are secrets on your menu, too. I want to get that right out here because people who know, but the dishes are not on the menu.
Well, the most important one, I think, is the chicken bonne femme, which we sell 2 to 3 cases of chicken a week just with that one dish. It smells wonderful, though, when it goes into the dining room.
I mean, you bring that into a dining room, you're going to sell a lot more of it because
Exactly.
people are looking around going, what was that? And I didn't see that on the menu.
It's not on the menu, but we sell quite a few.
That's fantastic. No need to hide oysters Rockefeller with you, chef,
Not at
because
all.
you sell a bunch of them.
We sell a lot of oysters Rockefeller, and then the second oyster dish is oyster fish. And that's a fried dish with a Colbert sauce, sherry wine sauce that we sell a lot of. Antoine has a lot of oyster dishes. For lunch right now, we're doing a charbroil oyster with 3.
Wow.
And I run it for every 3 months, and this is my 6th month because it's such a winner, and people love it so much. And they want me to put it on the menu itself, but we have a #1 oyster. I don't want to go to that. I want to keep the Rockefeller the way it is. Another thing too, I have to stay dear to the restaurant. Antoine's invented Rockefeller, so that's our #1, and I don't want any other thing to interfere with that at all.
A book was just done on your restaurant, which has proved to be very popular. But the author of that book indicates that your restaurant is haunted.
There are pictures in the book of the ghost.
Is that right?
That's true.
Do you buy into that?
I let other people buy into it.
What is
I haven't seen anything.
What is the most popular dish? Somebody that doesn't know Tujague's at all, the people who are roaming around in the quarter, in the French market, and they come into your restaurant, what are they likely to order?
We've been selling a tremendous amount of seafood. We just started a new menu a couple months ago, and there's 3 fresh Gulf fish dishes on the menu, and we buy a tremendous amount and run out every night.
You know what I like in your restaurant? And this is kind of common, red beans. I love the red beans at Tujague's.
At lunch, we sell an awful lot of red beans.
I'm there. I'm buying them. I'm the guy doing it.
Yeah.
So what kind of seafood? You're pretty well seasonal. Are you local?
Local only. We buy only local Louisiana seafood. Last night we ran a American red snapper special. Sold about 60 orders of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Chef? The trout?
Well, we really sell more pompano.
More pompano.
And right now, trout's really hard to get, so I've been using puppy drum. And, puppy drum, we sell a lot of that also. And then we can top it with crawfish cardinal. We can top it with crab meat. You could have it fried or grilled. And the same thing with pompano. To me, pompano, the skin on, just a little butter, lemon butter is the way to go. But crab meat, a lot of people love crab meat on it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Hello.
Just, yes. I actually like it plain. I like it just grilled plain, but because I love the skin on it. We seared that skin on it, and that skin, it has a really good texture on it, real good taste.
Are you feeling that in other words, you have fences within a big field? You can do anything you want to out there, but you have to stay within these fences for certain dishes.
That's true, but those certain dishes that are within those fences are excellent dishes to
really
begin
are.
with. So I don't have a problem producing them.
What are your thoughts about the grasshopper, which was invented in your restaurant? Do you like it?
I actually haven't even tried it yet.
Oh, is that right?
I do have a new dessert menu coming out, though, and there's quite a surprise. We're going to have a grasshopper cheesecake.
Oh my gosh, that's phenomenal. Chef, your bar you have great bar bites.
We actually, the bar, we just built this bar 5 years ago. And Mr. Rick and I, Mr. Blunt, we went to Chicago for the food show. And we went to a restaurant out that way, and we had to sit in this bar to wait to be seated. And he said, this is great. So when he came back to the city, he decided that he wants to open up a bar. And that's one of the best decisions we had made. Because in a dining room, you only use it when you have a banquet. The bar is from 11 to 11 every day, or even later. And we do serve bar foods. I have like 9 different item bar foods, and we do sell po' boys. We sell, soft shell crab po' boy, oyster fish po' boy, that we invented that. And then I have a burger that we have a dipping sauce with Marchand Van, and it's doing great. And then we do have Antoine's favorites, like the crab meat ravigotte, the shrimp remoulade, the Rockefeller, and the soufflés.
Potatoes, Chef.
The soufflés.
I can't sit in the bar and not have a plate of potatoes.
They're great. It's labor intense. It's a lot of money to do, but the reward's so great.
Now you do the po' boy too, don't you, with the beef?
We do the brisket po' boy
Yeah.
in the bar. We don't really have a bar menu, but we offer our full menu in the bar.
I remember when Stephen was still alive, Stephen Latter, and I was hungry one afternoon. I went in there and I said, can I get a po' boy made with that brisket? And he said, I guess. And I don't know that it ever been done before, but he came over and said, how is it? I said, yeah, you take a taste of it. It's delicious. It's wonderful. So I don't know if it started there or if he was just being a very nice man.
But we sell a lot every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? That's great beef.
Yeah.
It's wonderful stuff. We're proud of you. We're proud of the restaurants. Thank you for taking your time today on our show, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us.
This is Tim McNally, Appetite for Life. We're going to be back in just a bit. Don't you go away. Well, that is all the time we have today. Thanks again to all of our guests. I'm Tim McNally saying cheers until next time for Appetite for Life.
This program has been brought to you by Republic National Distributing Company, one of the nation's leading wholesale beverage alcohol distributors. And Bayou Rum, made with only the best Louisiana cane syrup and raw unrefined sugars. Our rums are crafted on-site at the Louisiana Spirits Distillery. For more information, visit bayourum.com.